Welcome to Share Talk, the only podcast where investors come first.
Hello and welcome to Share Talk. Today I'm joined by Ryan Dolder, who's CEO of Rogue Baron. How are you today, Ryan?
How are you doing? Great to be on.
Right, first question. How is Rogue Baron doing in the middle of a pandemic? I suppose I'd like to say people always want to drink, and maybe in a pandemic they drink even more. Is that your experience?
It is actually. It's a good industry to be in. You kind of look at it as, people will drink when times are good, and people drink when times are not so good. And it was interesting because when the pandemic hit, like a lot of businesses and industries around the world, we kind of looked at each other and said, what's going to happen? What's going to happen with the business? We were concerned. We weren't sure, especially with the lockdowns and the shutdowns of bars and restaurants. And what happened, and I think what happened to a lot of different businesses as well, is we've probably had the most growth we've had over the history of our business. It was really interesting. A majority of our business, there's two sides to our business where we sell our brands into. One being the on-premise, which is your restaurant and bars, and the other being off-premise, which is the liquor stores, grocery, etc. And obviously, when those bars and restaurants were shut down, those consumers moved to the off-premise, the stores, and we saw massive growth and pull through in the off-premise chains, which don't say it made up for everything we lost on the other side of it, but it made up for a lot of it. But it also, as a business, gave us a chance to kind of pull back a bit, take a breather, and then plan out our next 6, 12, 24 months, which then kind of allowed us to prepare for not only entering new markets in 2021 and getting ready for kind of the post-pandemic world, but also getting ready for our listing on the AQUIS exchange, and then kind of leading into that. And now we're here, and things are starting to really take off again now that the restaurant and bars are opening up.
You've got the SHNJ Japanese whiskey brand, your flagship brand. Hard liquor in the current environment is it seems to be quite popular if the RNS from last month is to be believed. I mean, you've had percentages, triple digit percentage gains in terms of sales. I mean, is it that ongoing momentum, or is that new momentum? How is that working?
I think it's a little of both. I think part of it is what we were building prior to the COVID shutdowns, and then almost the demand that was created during the shutdowns. And there was a point where we were selling through so fast in the stores that we were having a hard time keeping up on the production side of things. Add to that all the logistic issues that are happening around the world in all industries. It was hard for us to get product shipped from Japan to our markets. It took months longer. And so there was a time when we didn't have any product available to our markets, and it almost created a demand. I mean, we kind of laugh about it because it seemed like the less product we had available, the more demand it created. And then once we shored up that and got inventory back in, the demand for the product is exactly as you stated. We had distributors who, they would order maybe a pallet at a time. We're ordering 4 and 5 pallets at a time. Largely just because of the new accounts. And what's interesting is as we're coming out of the pandemic and bars and restaurants are starting to open again, these bars and restaurants are starting to kind of bring on new brands. It's almost a rebirth in the industry. What's happening is a lot of these restaurants and bars that were shut down are reopening, and they're kind of reopening new with new brands. And then you have the consumers that have been pent up, and they're going out, they've saved their money, they're looking to buy better quality products. They're looking for new brands. And what we're excited about is our Japanese whiskey fits a category it's fairly unique to a lot of consumers, but it's also on the premium side. What we say is affordable luxury. And so it seemed to create a demand from the consumer that is looking for new and different. And we've kind of fit that space. And I think that's what helped create the growth and demand we're seeing right now.
Clearly, we're at sort of a bit of a crossroads, hopefully coming out of the pandemic. What are the opportunities for growth at Robaron? What are your plans to, maybe maximize the brand or maximize products? Or how are you facing the future?
Yeah, and that was when I mentioned it during the COVID lockdown and shutdown. It gave us some time to really strategize and plan for the next 12 to 24 months and get new markets in place. And so in 2021, we have about, I think, roughly 14 new markets already lined up with orders ready to go in the United States. And when I say markets, I usually just mean a state in general. And then what we're also going to do is, obviously being a UK company, we're making plans right now to enter the UK market. So we'll probably be in the UK market in the back half of 2021. On top of that, what we want to do is continue to build out the line. The Japanese whiskey SHNJ right now is kind of the basic Japanese whiskey. We are also going to be launching 8-year, 12-year, and potentially a 15-year expressions, which we're really excited about because aged Japanese whiskey is in limited supply right now. We actually procured it a while back, kind of foreseeing that what was happening in the Japanese whiskey market, that the supply was starting to dwindle. So we were trying to kind of look ahead and prepare ourselves. So we do have access to that. That's part of our plan going forward as well. So our biggest key over the next 12 to 24 months is we look at the business success, not necessarily from a sales and revenue standpoint. Obviously, we want to continue to grow that. But in this industry, largely what makes a brand valuable is how many cases are sold. Generally, when you look at the brands that have been sold, you look at Casamigos and Aviation Gin, the value is kind of placed on the cases sold. And right now, the value per case sold is generally around, I think it's around $1,200 to $1,300 a case. So you can kind of do the multiple based on how many cases you're selling. In 2020, again, with some of the shutdown, we sold 2,500 cases of SHNJ. In 2021, we're projected to be near 7,000 to 8,000 cases. So that growth trajectory is going pretty well. But our goal within the next 24 months is to get that to 10,000 to 15,000 cases. And we believe, and from what we've talked to people in the industry, if we can get our sales to that level, then we start to really become a valuable brand and become, maybe a target. And our goal ultimately, and for our shareholders especially, is to build this brand up to a point where it can potentially be bought out. And that's the big reward for kind of all the work and effort and raising money and putting the behind and building those case sales and getting to that point.
Okay, well, on that bright note, Ryan Dolder, CEO of Robaron, thank you very much indeed.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Zach.
Thank you for listening. Remember to visit our website for more news and other podcasts at www.share-talk.com.